sleep soft.
Week's almost over.
Because I still wanna go back to Aruba, like I just,
You might.
my bones and the sun and the salt, I just have not, and looking at Joe, you can see his tan is still.
I know.
Well, I was away from.
I know,
Yeah.
oh, again.
Again.
Oh.
You talk about it. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. And this is a meeting of the Parking Authority of the Nags Parking Authority, Village of Nag Parking Authority. We are having the date is April 10th, 7 p.m. We are here to talk about a couple of parking issues that have come up that we want to make sure we discussed. Are we gonna do budget review of the parking authority as well?
No, she's not ready yet.
Okay, so we're not gonna do the budget authority. We'll do that. Well, we have to have another meeting then fairly soon.
It doesn't have to be passed as part of the general fund.
Okay, so it can be passed separately, but we should probably get the budget in front of us. All right. So let's talk. Andy, what do we got? We got going right to the agenda items? The parklets?
Yeah, so. The first item that we had on for the parking authority was the question of the restaurant bump out / parklet policy. And those more may remember about a couple years ago, you decided to continue this COVID era restaurant bump out policy. Because it attracts, it's viewed as positive in many ways. It livens up the street, it provides extra business opportunity for the participating businesses. And it's generally worked out. On the flip side, it does take up some parking spaces, and we have had some issues with ADA accessibility, sort of sidewalk. The umbrellas sometimes are a little too close to chairs, and there can be some obstacles in the sidewalk that need to be monitored. And so we've struggled a little bit around that. I think it's been fairly good, but there are definitely times when the sidewalk gets constrained between the sidewalk cafe dining and then having the bump outs as well, and kind of complicate things a little bit. But the sidewalk accessibility issue is more of a sidewalk cafe issue, I think, overall, than a bump out into the road. One of the things we've had to manage well is the umbrellas in the bump out. Sometimes if they're not placed right, they can stick out into the travel lane, and just the wind or even a passing box truck or something could hit them and kind of launch them. And I will say that we have had a few incidents. Fortunately, nobody's ever been hurt when some of those Jersey barriers, those concrete blocks have been hit by like parking cars. And they do move, and it's fortunate nobody was sitting next to it when it happened. So there is some hazard associated with the bump outs. We've been relatively safe. It's widely practiced. The restaurants that use them provide assurance that names the village. So we're controlling those risks. But you know, so there's some downsides and some upsides essentially. The village never actually, we have a policy for them, but we never actually passed it into law, which was some homework that we gave ourselves a while back. If we decided to go permanent with them, we'd establish a permit under the local law that will enable you, it would sort of legalize them at a new level. But we decided to forego that work because it seemed like an annual discussion that was taking place, and it might not go on forever, so why write the law, basically. So that's where we stand with it.
Why overburden your village attorney on this?
That's where we stand. There are restaurants that are very eager to renew their bump outs. After the first street fair, typically they go in late April, early May after the first street fair. They value them highly.
Yeah.
And so we need to know whether this board is gonna allow us to continue doing those bump outs or not.
I know also Joe had some suggestions in terms of were we charging enough for the blocks, for putting out the blocks and for the loss of the parking spaces. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I basically think that the value of the parking spaces that we're losing, we're not being compensated enough for. I'm not talking about a major amount of money, I know that we're charging right now $100 per month. And I suggested we raise that to $150 per month, which basically compensates the village for the loss of those parking spaces. That's number one. Number two is, you mentioned about the sidewalk dining. We need to be very careful about how we police that, or how we, because what happens is some places it's written that there should be, I think, a 3-foot distance, but the problem is they measure that from the table to the curb, but they don't take into account the chairs. And the chairs are usually basically, I've been there very often, where there's really hardly any free space to move because the chairs are backed up.
Our rule calls for a 4-foot.
4-foot.
Pedestrian pathway
4-foot.
and 84-inch height. So
Right.
sometimes the umbrellas are a little low, so
Right.
make sure they're high enough.
Okay, but the 4-foot is from the table.
It's supposed to be clearance.
But I know.
I know, they don't measure the chair, the people sitting in, that's
Exactly, so we should at least raise that to 5-foot clearance. So take into account a foot or 2 feet of the chair. And this is something that needs to be enforced. So that's number two. Number three, in my opinion, we have to be very careful about the placement of the bump outs. Because last year we had a situation where we had one bump out and right across the street, another bump out, and it made a very narrow passageway going down Main Street. That was the Ukrainian restaurant and the burger restaurant. So I don't think we have to avoid doing something like
Well, we
that.
can't take one, not the other, because it's just you can't pick winners and losers like that, but I will say this, what we should do is. We have a certain width that we put for the bump outs, and we should be able
It's the
to,
parking lane, they're never in the travel lane.
they should, but we should narrow it a little bit more where we have two across from each other. So there's a little bit more of a travel lane than there would be, because it's one thing when there's one. And you can sort of avoid it a little bit by going a little bit into the center, but if there's one on each side, it really does narrow so what he's saying, I think what you can do is just say, listen, if they're across from each other, I don't wanna not give Corner of Ukraine one. And I don't wanna not give Burger Club one, if they both ask. But I think they can do with like a foot less
Okay,
on each side.
Yes,
so
That's what I was
that
gonna
there's-
ask,
that'll
if
help.
less, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would,
Your table.
It still should be enough room for a table.
it may not be, so we need to look at that.
If not, they'll take 1 month on, 1 month off, but it would be bad for, Burger Club does make a lot of use of them. They really do.
Well, they both use them very heavily.
Mhm.
The Burger Club, like, they'll be full up basically every weekend day till.
Sure, I mean, all of the bump outs get used quite actively
Yeah, and also.
by the restaurants.
I would actually, I mean, I love the burger place. I'm there every weekend. But they have a wider sidewalk than the Corner of Ukraine, which has a very
Mhm.
narrow sidewalk.
That's true. Good
Right,
point.
so Corner of Ukraine cannot have sidewalk dining, but the burger place can. These are different things that we need to consider. Because I just don't want situations where I've been coming down Main Street. And, cars double park, whatever, basically it blocks it to some extent.
But I also thought that I remember the last time we had this discussion, I thought that was part of our formula was that if you had enough space for sidewalk dining, you wouldn't get a bump out.
That was never a policy.
That was
We're
a part,
asking them.
wasn't that part of the policy, there was a couple of years ago, you made a policy overview. of-
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and also that.
I don't remember ever saying that you wouldn't get a bump out if you had curbside.
So most of our bump out people have sidewalk cafe
Well,
permits.
but I thought that's why we didn't give like Casa del Sol one, because they have.
Castle Soul doesn't have one because they don't have a parking space. in front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, also, there was also another thing is, to, get permission or to ask the neighboring stores, do they have any objections to it? Now, I think that was in that. I have to find it, it's someplace. I
Well,
think
do we do that? Like, did we
Well,
ask?
they've become it's the same restaurants kind of doing it
They're
over
doing
and
it
over.
over and over.
And so if it worked well, one
They have one,
season,
this is
we're
2020.
not coming back and like petition.
Yeah.
But I think they probably didn't get enough out of this.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, they are never in the driving lane, just like a parked car isn't in the driving lane.
Right.
During the parking
These
lot.
spaces are used parking spaces,
Yeah.
it's not where you drive,
Yeah,
like they don't actually restrict the parking lane at all.
Yeah. How are we gonna deal with, just theoretical, DPNB usually has a bump out? And now they're opening up another place next door. How is that gonna be handled? Are they gonna take?
That's for this board to decide, I mean,
We can make a decision on each individual application. It might be that we just give them for the one space and not for.
you have to
Just the
decide.
idea of too many,
Yeah.
but it is two different, I mean, technically it's two different businesses, two different. So I mean, he could, I don't think he's gonna, he did mention, I'm not sure if he's gonna go for both of them anyway. He wants more of a parking space, he doesn't want to use the parking space.
And how many
He's very
parking
cognizant of his
spots
neighbors.
are we losing due to these bump outs?
It's one spot per bump out, so I think we've had about 10 bump outs. After take,
And some of the spaces, like, there are some spaces which is very hard to use. Like, the burger place.
Burger place,
Mhm.
whenever we do
there
it,
and the crosswalk is quite a small
Yeah.
gap, but a small car can fit in there.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's really like down to the inches, like we try to make it fit. Just neck it in enough so that you get a car in there while giving the burger lot their frontage. They don't get their entire frontage, but they get most of it.
Have you gotten feedback from the parking authority, ticket people, and why aren't they at the, why aren't they invited to the meeting?
You can invite them, but it's overtime, and if you want them to come, I can schedule that, absolutely.
Well, I think at least one representative should be here to talk about their actual experience and their insight into everything to do with the parking authority. I think it would be very useful to us.
well, we can also come up with a list of questions and just get
and get
their answers. We can ask them offline. We don't have
Or
to-
visit them during work hours, when
Yeah.
when I usually go down, sometimes when
I
I
mean, they don't
need
have
to
to
talk with
testify, there's no
Rosa and
testifying.
everyone to sort
Yeah,
of.
but I think
Find out
that
something.
either way, like some people have more time than others, but I think either way, however we do it, I think their input is important because they're out on the street
Right.
Yeah,
dealing with it. So whether it's questions or whatever, I think that's a
It's
good
the tip of the
idea.
ticket.
I don't know if they'd have any particular insight into these.
And mostly, it's just, everybody wants to get as many sort of parking meter revenues as possible,
Mhm.
and these do reduce that. I couldn't tell you exactly how much, because we do get $100 a month from them, so
Okay,
there's some marginal loss there, most likely, of parking meter revenues.
So what do we charge for a permit piece, for a permit slot?
So coming in, they have to pay, I think,
No, what do we charge for somebody getting a permit for one of the lots?
I can't remember the number, it's somewhere between $50 and
Okay.
$75.
Okay, so it's more than.
For a monthly
Mhm.
24/7 permit. It's a good deal.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm comparing, those are lots, the lots are more plentiful than streets, street spaces are more in demand. To go to Joe's points, his 3 points, start with the last one. What we should maybe do is maybe take like something that's not gonna permanently color the sidewalk, but we should lay down like, I mean, I'm thinking like spray paint, but not spray paint. But something that says this is 4 feet and anything, so you can literally spot check it that anything within that 4-foot lane is now infringing on the passing lane.
I think since we have 2 new code enforcement officers, they just need to be directed to pay attention to this problem and make sure there's a.
I mean, we know who's really the problem. There's
Yeah,
a couple
I mean,
places that are
couple
all
places,
violating.
basically, and then, honestly, it's housekeeping on the part of restaurants, they'll put up their tent in the wrong place one day and they'll get it right the next day, it's just.
So just as 3 points, so I think we can address that, we
Absolutely.
definitely have to maintain the 4 feet. The second point, the first point was the money, and the second point was the.
Enforcement of the 4-foot passage.
No, that
No,
was three.
about the block,
If you wanna say,
grade and,
The double,
Yeah,
They
the
can't be
drop-off
opposite
sign.
each other, then we're gonna have to knock out either burger.
I'd like to, if they're opposite each other, just think they have to be a little narrower. That'd be the thing. Narrow them if you can make them narrow while still allowing them to have a foretop inside.
Okay,
I will say, so keep the 4 feet and then the cost, if you wanna raise the price, I could raise I'm not gonna
actually don't wanna raise the price right now. I wouldn't ordinarily disagree with it, but given what's been going on, just like in the general economy, I don't wanna. I wanna be able to walk the fine line between making sure we're regulating things and not overburdening our businesses. That's just my thoughts on it, but, you know, that's just me. I kind of would hold for a little bit, just to make sure that, you know, we're gonna get the business that we wanna see this summer anyway.
I can go either way with them.
Yeah.
With the
How about we
cost.
split the difference?
What, 125?
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, our costs go up too.
Yeah,
And we also charge them for the putting up of the bricks, right?
The installation
Yeah,
and the original purchase of the bricks, but they've all done that already, so.
okay. So it's cheaper for them now because they've already paid for the bricks.
yeah,
I will say this, I mean, a couple of restaurateurs that I respect their opinion were passionate about their need to have these in the summer. That it makes a difference between them making, you know, making their monthly nuts and having a good year and stuff like that. So I know we've toyed with the idea of that they're, you know, New York City got rid of theirs, although theirs were a lot more elaborate than ours are.
yeah.
That, you know, I don't wanna see, I mean, Tony Scotto, who is doing great, runs a wonderful business, a really valued member of our business community. He was like, this really makes a difference for me, and I respect that, and we just had George, what's his last name, the
Cabos?
Cavos, his last name Cavos?
No.
Oh, okay. I said George, you said Cavos. So anyway, George from Cavos Grill, said the same thing, that he was,
Okay.
when we talked about the idea of doing any kind of street closure thing, he was just adamant that it wasn't gonna affect his parklet. So I would say that, you know, I would say that we should do it. I'm okay with raising it to 125, if everybody else is okay with that, and making sure that we redouble our efforts to maintain a 4-foot passing lane or whatever, a 4-foot
Right, right.
ADA compliant
And that includes,
passageway.
that includes the chairs.
And that includes the chairs, 4 feet, that's what you make a
No
mark, and then
obstacles.
nothing can be in these 4 feet, that's what I would do, I literally put down like a little line, like a tape or something, and have it be 4 feet apart. And then the last thing is if there are two across from each other, you add you subtract a little bit of width on each
So what I'm
side.
thinking is, you've got the width of the paint on the parking space
Alright,
plus 6 inches to the outside face of the Jersey barrier. So it'll be a total of 10 inches in from the outside of that painted line, which would be the travel lane.
For the street side, yeah. I'm
Right.
talking about putting on some paint for the 4 feet.
No, I know, I was onto the,
yeah, the
Okay.
thing, yeah.
Just, I mean, I think we really have only one place where they're opposite each other,
Right.
and for that one place, let's just make sure that they're not quite on top of each other.
yeah, I'm just giving you the method
Okay,
that would be, should
Okay.
shrink it by a very, very
Equally for both
specific
sides.
number of inches, because it's a very minute sort of,
What's next to the burger place?
what's next to it?
Yeah,
Right here, it's, on one side is
they've
the,
got a
is the-
sidewalk.
This place is on one
Yes,
side,
abandoned bump
Yeah.
outs.
and then Prohibition's on the other side,
yeah, okay.
and Prohibition doesn't get one because Prohibition has they have outdoor dining, they don't have that.
yeah.
They have a big-
And that should also, the full foot should also somehow apply to the prohibition.
Yeah, they should maintain.
on the-
The other side doesn't.
All sidewalk cafes have to maintain a 4 foot.
All right, next thing, are we good with that? Is everybody good with this as we articulated it?
Yeah,
4 feet. Now,
Yeah, that
bring a
works.
bigger gap between the two, $125 a pop.
alright,
All right, the next thing was the allowing for overnight parking in the,
River space?
no, I wasn't
No.
suggesting for river space, I was just suggesting it for the, RDP and for the marina.
Okay.
So it would be for the big RDP lot, the two lots that have permits,
oh,
The
Arby's
river
behind
space,
it.
yeah, it's behind it.
The upper,
not river space, because.
Yeah, the river space behind
Yeah.
it, yeah.
RDP.
Great.
River space, so what do we think, we do okay with this Friday and Saturday nights?
wait,
Yeah, I'm fine with
are we
it.
talking about the marina down?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, I
That's
don't know
gonna-
about
No,
the
I don't know about
problem.
because.
because
people
all
are
those neighbors
complaining.
keep complaining, it sort of just like justifies
yeah,
all those guys being down there.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think of.
Now that I
whether
thought
we-
about it, you're right, that's a good catch, Joe.
All right, then just do it for the RDP lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, RDP is.
I would like for people to park overnight, because I think the more people park overnight in the marina lot, the more you crowd out those people. I think if people are legitimately parking down there, it's good, but
but
then we're watering down the message of don't be down there after 10 o'clock.
well, not only that, I think that that'll give them an easier point to loiter if they're saying that my car is parked here.
Right,
If they know that they're gonna just be able to park down there, they will just park down there and loiter.
All right, I mean, you're still not allowed to loiter there, you're not allowed to be there, you're allowed to leave your car there, but you're not allowed to be there, but that's fine, I'm not gonna fight with it. So just for we'll start with the RP lot,
Yeah,
because that already has a lot of overnight parking because
Yeah.
there's permits.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it on the river space slash,
No.
market lot, because I think what'll happen is people will park there and then the next morning, at least on Sunday morning, there won't be anywhere to park.
right.
Right, cause they'll leave their cars there.
Because leave their cars in, there's nowhere to park to go shopping,
Yeah,
and not on the streets. So
Right.
there's gonna be, we're gonna need like a couple signs saying overnight parking allowed,
We'll figure out a
no
way to
parking,
edit
3 to
those
6,
signs.
7, 8.
yeah.
We'll edit them, yeah,
Okay,
the signs actually have space on them.
Okay.
and next thing is you wanna put chargers in Catherine Street?
So yeah, this is something that Steve Sia has been working on with the sustainability group. The fast chargers are an attraction for people more than our level 2 chargers, which are more slow. So the feeling is that having fast chargers in the village will help with economic development because people will come off the throughway just to charge their car
Yeah,
and maybe go shopping or something like that. There's no revenue loss because the parking meters, you lose the parking meter, but you gain the sales on the energy side. Probably make money. But the question is, and I want you to know, like, there's feasibility that needs to be done to make sure that the power supply is there and the companies that build these things have to kind of
Mhm.
do that. But I didn't wanna get going on that if the board isn't willing to have 2 parking spaces at a Catherine Street lot dedicated to fast chargers. You can't do just one, it has to be at least 2.
yeah, the problem is, okay,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I would just say the problem is that it's just such a small lot.
It's a lot. There's
Yeah.
probably, I think there's 12 parking spaces over there, including a couple of handicaps. that are
And they're
metered.
not permanent parking spaces?
On the rear is permitted.
Yeah,
The
but up front
is
it's
metered.
not, yeah.
Oh, okay,
I know it's
so
kinda
what is it,
odd.
like those, what is it, the 6 in the back are?
There's 2 rows of
Yeah.
6 or so,
Yeah,
that are metered, and then
Yeah.
everything in the back is permitted. So what I would be recommending, frankly, because I think fast chargers are a good thing, I think that's a good place for them if we can get them in there, would be that we allocate 2 of the dozen or so metered spots to fast chargers. So that you'd have to be driving an electric car to park there. It helps to incentivize and support electric car conversion
right.
and makes us some money and puts us on the map when people are looking for a place to charge.
Yeah,
their
and I will
would
say this, as an
like
electric car
4.
owner, the level 3 chargers, which is what the high speed charger are, the level 3 chargers are always very
Yeah.
much in demand because there aren't that many. In fact, the closest one to us right now is in Orangetown.
Right
It's
down
at
at
the-
the supermarket.
at the
That's
supermarket
not even
Orangetown.
at the mall.
So
That
wait,
is
but that
more,
would
right?
only leave like 4 regular parking spots then?
It
Well,
would,
if we use
that's,
2 out of
why are
12,
we
it'd
thinking of
be
it there
like
instead of like in Ardipy or something like that? Why are we
A
thinking of it
bigger
there?
spot.
Yeah, I'm just like, this
It's
is.
more into business. It seemed like more close to places people wanna eat or shop. But we could explore different options. I mean,
I wonder whether the level 2s that we have over in the veterans lot could be converted. Because that's a good space for them, because they're very convenient and they're right in the middle of everything.
And
Just the
easy
meters work
ingress and
so
egress.
hard and so long to get those chargers
I'm
in.
just saying, they can't be converted, they
Yeah, I
have,
just wanna tell you,
Ones are useless, those slow ones.
she says it uses.
well, you gotta leave them for a long time. You
Can we
can't,
add,
they park slow, they charge slow, you gotta leave them for 8
They
hours.
take so many hours.
can we add
Nobody wants to
to
sit
the
there.
veterans parking lot 2 more?
Maybe.
I mean, that would be the solution, in my
Maybe.
opinion.
I wanna give you, I mean, it requires, I mean, this board, your job is basically to say, pursue this or don't pursue this, because in every case, there's technical feasibility that needs to be done. The veterans lot was hellacious because the big transformer box there that serves the supermarket, and all those restaurants, has a certain capacity. And we actually had to knock off one of our slow chargers in order to stay within that threshold, and it was still very cumbersome, so
So
to
not
put
probably
more
not
demand
there.
on that transformer would
Okay.
require a whole new transformer box, probably on the other side of the parking lot, with
Mhm.
trenches going every which way and stuff, so the feasibility question is unresolved with any possible location. I just need to know if I should be pursuing this as an opportunity for the village.
I think you pursue
Yeah.
it, sure. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, would you only pursue it just for Catherine Street, or would you look at all the other lots?
I can look at the other lots if you prefer a different lot.
Well, can we look at Catherine and,
Yeah.
Well, if you're
Well,
saying
maybe not
veterans is
better,
tough, we should.
But like, only because I just like, I mean, I like having the options, maybe that's more
Or
why.
maybe in the river space lot, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe
Back.
one
Oh,
in
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So they come in twos.
Yeah.
Oh, they come in
they come in
twos.
twos, no,
That's a
I'm
big
okay,
lot.
yeah, I'm okay if you
So,
wanna,
Is that a different transformer that feeds that river
lot.
space lot?
I'd have to find out.
Okay.
alright,
But that might be a place.
Yeah, if
that
it's-
I'd be
if it's not
in favor
too
of.
burdensome.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, it's not burdensome to me, it's just the engineering that makes those support
right.
additional.
So if we could find out the places
no,
that it
yeah.
actually would support, it would
Yeah,
narrow
that would- yeah,
everything
that would be
down
just
and
nice
then,
to know,
and maybe
yeah.
it is Catherine because
Right,
that's it.
right, literally, yeah, no, that's pretty much that.
Okay, so the board supports dedicating 2 spots in one of our
To
municipal lots
faster, yeah,
Yes,
to
yes.
fast chargers, okay,
Yep.
all right. So we'll work on that and see what we can find out.
okay. Next,
The last item was budget review, but we spoke to Jenna earlier this week and she hasn't had a chance to do parking authority. Parking authority budget does not need to be done for you to finish the general fund. The general fund has a parking authority revenue figure in it. But that doesn't, we have to do the whole budget for the authority to know what that figure is gonna be.
okay, I asked and I spoke to Kyle about getting a cash flow analysis, because the budget is one thing, P and L is one thing, but I would like to see a cash flow.
Yeah, we
For
need,
the general fund.
yeah,
In general, cash flow, revenues, expenditures, and net balance.
So pretty soon, we're gonna have a budget presentation by Jen. She's gonna be on the speakerphone.
Okay,
And we can go into the general fund with some more questions and concerns the board might have.
I'm talking particularly about the
I want
parking authority.
Okay.
That's
I wanna find out what they're saying about.
well, I wanna get the cash flow on the main account as well, for the main budget, that we absolutely need that.
That's all I got for now on parking.
All right, any other questions or comments on parking? Any comments from the, do you have any
Oh.
comments or questions or concerns about parking? Anything from the public? Well, we have the parking authority here before the parking authority has to leave and then we place them with the village board.
We have to go around the table.
All right, can
No, no, no.
What,
oh, was there a question? Oh,
parking
There's a microphone
authority?
right there.
Mary Ann.
Oh,
I don't know if this is about parking, but I heard, and I'm not sure, I heard that, this on?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Hello? Hi, Mary Ann Olive, how you doing?
Okay.
I heard from someone that there's going to be a closing, maybe on the weekends.
The Main Street closure, we had
Main
a
Street?
meeting about that at 5:15 today with the business council. Some people from, like George was there from the Greek
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, I was
Um,
not able to come.
And the
so-
just to give you the basic idea, the conversation. The end result of the conversation is what we're looking at now is only doing it on Wednesday nights, not on the weekends, because Wednesday night is less of a chance of there being any negative impact on any of the businesses that aren't on the route. But at the same time, it might draw people in and we'll be able to test it out on that kind of night. So that's where it stands right now. It's not definite even with that though.
So what is the idea? You're gonna close the street?
Close Main up to, close Main Street from Broadway up to either Cedar. Or it might go all the way to Park, but it wouldn't go all the way to Franklin because there's just too many street closures to do that.
Well, that
too many-
wouldn't be good for me.
You wouldn't be on the route, you'd be just
It wouldn't
outside.
be
the route.
good for me or the Hudson House or how many, let's see. we
That
have-
was the whole conversation we had at 5:15, exactly what we talked about. And that's why we decided to do it on Wednesday night rather than a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's not benefiting my business at all.
Will it hurt your business?
No, I think it's better to have the street closed from Franklin to Broadway because I've traveled around the country many, many times and I've gone to many cities that have these. you know,
Marianne, let's do this because we, I don't want to take up the meeting time with that, but because we spent about an hour and a half with it on the business council. But why don't you, come here before the meeting starts and I'll give you my number, give me a call tomorrow. We'll talk about just 2 of us. I'll tell you all about it,
Yeah.
okay? Because I just don't want to have a
Discussion.
side conversation, huh?
you're not into it at this time.
Well, we just had the whole conversation at a meeting that was broadcast and I know you couldn't make it, but I don't wanna have to rehash the same thing in a public meeting that we have a
Is there
limited time
any
for.
paperwork that I can see on it or anything?
Yeah, there was if you, there was a whole proposal written, if you go to the welovenyack.com blog. It's right there. If you go to the We Love Nyack page, it's there. If you go to the newsletter that we sent out on Monday, it was in there, as well as the newsletters posted on the
Yeah,
on the
I
Facebook
must
page.
not be getting that information.
And I'll make sure that you sign up for it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a minute, get ready for the next meeting. Let's adjourn this meeting and I'll make sure you get my number so you can call me, all right? Okay.
I just texted George.
Oh, you just texted the number. So he just texted you my number. So you have it. Shoot me a text or a call tomorrow and we'll talk about it. Okay, I'll take you through it. Did we make do we have to, we have to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn
So
the,
moved.
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Motion, passes. The meeting of the parking authority is now closed. And if I may ask you all to rise for the pledge of allegiance for the village board meeting. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, thank you all for being here. This is a meeting of the Village of Nyack Village Board. April 10th, 2025. It's a little after 7:30 PM. Earlier today, we had a meeting of the Nyack Business Council. That was at 5:15. We had a meeting of the Parking Authority at 7 o'clock. This is our regular board meeting. A couple of quick things before we get into it. I wanted to mention that this Sunday is the first street fair of the year. This one's the Chamber of Commerce Street Fair at 4 o'clock. They're the normal street fair, wonderful event, but also at 4 o'clock. Nyack's own Goheed and Cambria, the band, is gonna perform an acoustic set at Easter Square. They'll also be getting a key to the village, on behalf of, put together by the chamber.
Is it a big key?
It's apparently it's a key in the shape of a guitar of some
Very
sort.
large key.
It's a very large key. We don't actually technically have one ourselves, but we're working on that. Also want to just let you know, some things that are coming up this weekend. Friday, at St. Anne's, there's a pasta dinner, starts at 7 o'clock. Fundraiser for them. Saturday is the first of our flower markets, which is gonna start, I believe, at 10 o'clock in Easter Square. They have about a dozen vendors coming of various flower and plant-related items. Also, not in the village, but important to the village, on Monday at 6 PM at the Rasso Room, which is the 4th floor room at the Palisades Mall. The shared use path meeting, there's a meeting, the general forum about the walking path that's being proposed for basically all along this side of the Hudson. It's probably worth going to. I will be
What
there
time is it? I'm sorry.
6 o'clock on
Monday?
Monday at the Palisades Mall, 4th floor, the Rasso Room. They have more meetings than that, but that's the one, that's the one I wrote down. But if you look it up, you'll find those. We'll make sure we put it in the newsletter on Monday, so you can find
Okay.
it there before the meeting happens. Also, we still have a budget meeting on Tuesday, 6:30, correct? Scheduled for this Tuesday? Unless we decide today that we don't need it.
I might miss that
Yeah.
one too.
Yes, 6:30.
It's scheduled now. But we may not,
15.
depending on how things go today, we may
At
or may
what
not need
time?
an additional meeting.
6:30.
That's scheduled on the thing. And also, I just want to wish everybody, I guess would say at the end too, this weekend, is the beginning of Passover, and then and the weekend after is Easter weekend. We won't be meeting before, at least, and as a village board, other than the budget meeting before Easter. So happy Passover and a happy Easter to everybody who honors and celebrates the holidays. Anybody else have anything else they want to, just before we get into the meeting?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that on Saturday, April 19th, keep Rockland Beautiful, the Nyack edition. 9 to 12, meeting at the YMCA, signing up and getting all the gear and the assignments. And please register at Keep Rockland Beautiful. It's very easy to register. And so far, we have almost probably about 45 people. 22 adults, 11 teenagers, and 22 kids signed up. So it should be quite an event. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Nope.
All right, so let's get to it. At this point of the meeting, we'll take public comment on any issue that's not on our agenda. If it's an agenda item, I'd ask you to just wait for your comment until we get to the agenda item, and then we'll allow you to do public comment at that agenda item. But if it's on for, do you have something? You want to talk about the,
That's Yogi with the
for the,
Easter egg.
for the Easter egg hunt, yeah. If you want to talk about that, yeah, you can come on and talk about that. You don't have to wait for the rest of the meeting to talk about that. You can do public comment.
What's that timeline? I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
do
sure.
do a 2 minute on this, Andy?
Sorry,
We ain't got, I don't.
Sure, no, just,
he's just double checking to make sure his paperwork's fine.
Yeah, I sent you the emails, want to make sure you got the email, and I got the paperwork, so I just want to make sure I need to sign that. So, and I came to double check on your Easter suit. Your
I got it, you should see, I got a jacket, I got an Easter jacket that is very sharp. And has colored with Easter eggs on it, as well as an Easter egg hat. I did not do the bunny suit, but I felt that I had to maintain a certain dignity as the mayor of the night, but I have a very sharp looking Easter suit for you.
Okay, well,
For the,
I did have an Easter bunny just in case you backed out on me, but I wanted to make sure.
good, so we have both an Easter bunny and me in my ridiculous looking Easter suit.
Please,
Huh?
when is it again?
The 19th,
And what's the time?
between 2 and 5, but we look to get down there around 12 to start setting up. I did speak to a young lady that's part of the young lady we spoke to about
Talk to Jade.
Jade about,
There's two
assistance,
things on
and I think
that.
you're supposed to be doing the cleanup thing in the park
Clean up,
too
but
as
that's
well.
until 9 to
That's,
12.
yeah, that's 9 to
They'll be
12,
over
yeah,
by
that's
then.
the same
Yeah,
day.
yeah, but I spoke to some lady that wanted to do some music.
No, don't worry about that.
No, I
Okay.
know, but I spoke to her and she said she's gonna participate as long as she could, if it's okay, so. We're definitely looking to have a great
I'll go.
turnout, and I'm glad that you still are being, supportive and you're gonna come down there as snazzy as you can.
It's, the jacket's not at all snazzy, but it is very Eastery themed.
That works.
I won't be there, but make sure to get lots of pictures, folks. I wanna make sure, I wanna see.
Yes, definitely.
I promise you I will look faintly ridiculous, so that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, that
I'm all
works.
coming down to take pictures.
Okay.
For your insurance.
Yeah,
And thank you for doing this. Thank you very much for doing this. It's a
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful thing that you're doing for the village.
thank you much.
Well, thank you for caring.
You just sign.
All right, any other public comments on a non-action item, issue? All right, do we have the presentation prepared? Are you from
Mhm.
Bill's office, Dom's office? Okay.
Can I'm sorry to be like this, but I kind of object to the fact that we're doing all of these presentations, prior to having a, public hearing and an official, this is off, this is not, according to a proper order. I know that the, plans were given, both the 4-story and the 3-story. But it seems to me a little bit odd that we're doing it and there's not, and they want a sense of the board, which we gave them somewhat last time. Is this the way it's supposed to be, Dennis?
I sent an email out, I think you were included, it may have been a while ago, that there is something in our zoning code that does allow this preliminary kind of informal. Maybe you weren't in the email, but it certainly went to the mayor and to Andy, and I think I sent it to the entire board. Where I did point out, because this question had been raised, I think maybe by you, and I responded to it. Yes, there is a mechanism for it.
Joe, your objection's noted, and you made it last time as well, and I noted it then. I think it's a fair point to make that it's it puts us in an awkward position because
Yes.
we're asked to make an unofficial, which, is not gonna be
Right.
binding, and so what does it actually mean? I think I think I generally would lean in favor of trying to be accommodating to, a longtime, property owner in the village as well as a local engineering and architecture firm to try to give them a certain amount of courtesy and allowance to see if we can give them the guidance that they've been asking for. But your point's well taken, and I think you can
Well, I just wanna
Render your
note
opinion on it.
on the record.
Just-
that's
yeah, you
what I
just
said.
noted.
And just to sort of add to Joe's point, I'm concerned that we will be setting a precedent for this.
here's the thing, I don't really mind the precedent of us saying to somebody before they go spend $250,000 on work that we're not gonna approve 6 months later, that we tell them, hey, we're not gonna approve this under any circumstances. I don't mind that as a precedent. I'd like us to be a little bit friendly to the people that are trying to invest money in the village by telling them, giving them a heads up if it's not something that's gonna be a go. And that's the only reason to do this, is to, I mean, if we're all, if it's gonna be like, hey, everybody loves it and everybody's in favor of it, then it's really not a problem. It's only if there is a problem that you do wanna head it off now before they end up, we don't wanna tease them into investing a lot of money and then pull the rug out from under them. So we try to give them a heads up now. I think that's a bad precedent to set.
No, and I have two minds about it, because I understand on one hand, not wanting someone to invest all of that if we're not going for it, but on the other hand, it's nice to know how people are feeling that might be impacted by that in that particular area, so.
And that's why
I
we
have
need
two
a public
minds
hearing.
about it.
Yeah, that's why we need a public hearing.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I found the provisions, and I did put this in an email to you all. In our zoning code, it's 360 5.4, paragraph A, which is entitled optional pre-application meeting. I'm not gonna recite it to you and extend the meeting further than it needs to be. But one phrase reads, quote, "The purpose of the pre-application meeting is to provide an opportunity for an informal evaluation of an applicant's proposal and to familiarize the applicant and the relevant decision-making body with the applicable provisions of this chapter, et cetera, any other issues that may impact the development application. It's optional, I'm paraphrasing, but is recommended for applications that will likely require amendments to the zoning chapter, site development plan review, or subdivision." It reads on later down in another subsection in that same section, 360 5.4. That it can be with just the building inspector, and it could also be with certain members of the decision-making bodies, but not a quorum. And it says, in some cases, and I'm quoting, "depending on the character of the development, the building inspector may schedule a pre-application meeting before an entire board." And the final subsection in this section I cited says, quote, "Informal evaluation not binding. The informal evaluation provided during the pre-application meeting is not binding upon the applicant or the village, but is intended to serve as a guide to the applicant in making the application," end quote.
Alright,
So whether or not the building inspector arranged this, I cannot speak to that, but it was discussed offline, maybe how long.
Alright, so that's been in the books for, that's been in the books for a while. It wasn't added recently.
No, this is,
Okay, that's the only thing I would say, is that we've had this on the books. I've been here 5 years. It's the first time it's happened. So it's not something that comes up very often, partly because we don't have big development projects coming up very often in the first place. So I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that, and I understand Joe's point. I get it. And I just think that sometimes you want to try to be a little accommodating. We certainly have we're gonna get feedback from people who are objecting to it, and let them get their voices heard. And I think it's been out there enough that people are aware of it if they want to come in and say something about it. But the only other point I will make, Joe, is that we did say at the last meeting that it would have been helpful to see the alternate design,
right.
which they did
Right.
provide us in the
Yes, they
2
did.
weeks that followed. So that's why they're coming back to give us, I guess, to get feedback on the various designs. So why don't you introduce yourself and we'll get started.
My name's Sarah Murray. I'm with Dominic Pill's office. So I just want to touch, obviously, I understand the concerns about the procedure, and if we had our way.
Put the mic closer. Yeah.
Sorry, if we had our way, this wouldn't be the procedure either. It puts everybody in a bad position where we don't have a specific indication. We don't have a formal vote until later on. But this is the best we can do and the best that we're trying to do for our client in terms of getting some feedback before he spends a lot of money. So just, obviously, this is, I don't think anybody ideally would, this is the situation that we're in because of the way that the code is written and the way that we have to go through the boards. But, we appreciate your time and we hope that we can get some helpful feedbacks that we can take back to the client and be able to determine the best way to move forward. So since the last meeting, we provided a package that gives renderings for both the 3-story and the 4-story options. So I'm assuming everybody's had a chance to take a look. Just to reiterate, obviously the 4-story option, the 4th floor is set back because of the way that this site is situated from the rear of the property. We believe that it really reads more like a 3-story than the 4-story building. And then from the street with the setback, from the street also, in addition to the setback of the fourth floor itself, we feel that this is not, overly imposing, for the people that are passing on the public way. In comparison, we provided the renderings for the 3-story. You can see obviously a much bigger footprint here. We lose the whole front setback and that all becomes solid building. We provided kind of the bird's eye view as the first couple of images, where you can kind of get a sense of how large the footprint is for the 3-story option. And then we also have some renderings from the street, so you can understand, how this is read from a pedestrian's point of view. As we mentioned in the last meeting, we feel that the setback, provides a way of kind of transitioning from this district into the residential district. And it kind of opens it up as you move along the street. And I have one more printout, if I may, to hand out to the board.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Part of the discussion that we had during the last meeting was a concern that there are no other buildings within this block that have a 4th floor. And I just thought this was a useful image, to see that there are actually.
Sorry,
Can we see one of
sure, do you have another copy for me? There you go.
date is a different plan.
Well, this is just a different picture. Not a different plan, this one. You're showing the fact that you're pointing attention to the fact that there are
There's a-
4th-story
Right, kind of
add-ons to the
on
additions
a
made to
number
3 of those
other
buildings.
On the street, just for reference for the boards, they understand that this is not the only building that has 4 stories. Obviously, those ones are right at the front property line, so you don't really read them from the street, but that's not to say that they aren't there. There is a 4th floor on a number of buildings within the block.
Well, not a full floor, anyway. Well,
It's a 4th floor and 3 of the building.
Yeah, it's a penthouse 4th floor, right?
It's not he's gonna say, it's not the full width of the building, it would be the point.
Correct, yes.
Can I draw your attention to, it could be one of the drawings of the 3-story building. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Am I okay to ask you a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
It's the South Broadway looking southeast 3-story option. One of the things that Joe and I both noticed, is that. You're looking at, everybody got the right one? It says, it's on the bottom left, it says South Broadway looking southeast,
Yeah.
or sorry, looking
Southwest.
southwest, looking
And it
southwest,
says
3-story option.
3-story option.
3-story
This one,
option,
yeah.
yes, that one.
Okay.
If you can see, in the rendering, by where the tree is in the center of the picture,
Mhm.
you can see that the front of the building at the first, at the top of the 1st story juts out a little bit. It seems to jut out more than it does at the ground level, though the ground level, I guess maybe it does as well. But it looks like there's a, it doesn't sit flush with the other buildings on Broadway. It's like it's a foot or 2 ahead of it. You see what I'm talking about?
That's correct. So the front property line is actually further towards the street than the face of the adjacent buildings. That's why you're seeing that. So I'm not sure the exact setback on these.
But you're saying
drawings.
this complies with the setback, but it's closer to the street than the other buildings are.
Yes, I'm saying we're coming all the way to the front property line, whereas the adjacent buildings are set back from the property line by
Okay.
30 feet or something like that. I don't have the exact
So
dimension.
what's the setback on that area?
What's the required setback on the area?
Required setback.
There's no required setback.
No.
Oh, so I'm sorry, you're saying that beyond the sidewalk, there's no setback.
Yes, the front,
Up, so you can go up to the
There's no
property line,
setback.
you can go up to the property line, okay, you can go up to the
Yes.
property line.
which is what's shown in our
Okay.
rendering. The
Alright.
adjacent buildings are setback.
Do you have other questions or comments?
So we're not going to be able to, I mean, we could say what our preference is, whether it's a 4-story or a 3-story. but this three-story has not yet been vetted by the planning department or the architectural review board. This is just an idea that you're setting out here, correct?
Correct, but the building shown is as of right, so there's no.
Okay,
we're not asking
well,
for any variance.
You say as of right, but that has to go through the planning department, the planning.
Of course, yeah,
you know,
I'm just-
I'm just saying, this is what you're saying, but it's not 100% verified. That's what I want to say. But this is
Of
your
course, yes.
rendition of what you envision a three-story building would look like.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I have questions about it, but I don't want to get technical because obviously you have to present that to the planning board, the architectural review board. The building inspector has to view the plans and so forth. So, but in terms of the rendition, what it looks like, this is probably close to what a three-story building would look like, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And the three-story building and the four-story building, Dom said last week, have the same, roughly the same square footage interior.
Correct, roughly, yeah. I don't have the exact.
And the same number,
numbers.
well, roughly the same square
It's not
footage,
as
roughly the
significant.
same number of units.
Yeah,
Correct. same
It's
number of
also
units,
18
roughly
units.
the same square footage, yes.
yeah, it seems that the three-story is a lot bigger in terms of the volume space than your four-story. So I gotta, that's why we need to see what the, the various plans, what the floor area ratios, the
Right,
lot
which would all
size.
be
and all
reviewed
that.
by the planning board.
What's
but
that?
That would all be reviewed
Right,
by the
right,
planning board.
right. That's what I'm,
Correct.
that's what
This is, obviously, this is not as developed as the four-story option. I don't have all of those answers for you today, but it's really just provided as a point of comparison and discussion so that we can hopefully get a little bit more feedback about what the preference would be in terms of 3 versus 4.
And a question is, so the fourth story, is it predominantly for green space? For the tenants to kind of,
That'd be the top, that'd be the
The
roof.
top,
That's the
the
roof.
The
That's
main, the main roof, it's 50% green roof, and then the other portion is either mechanical or terrace space that's occupiable by the residents.
and if you didn't have that to do that with, would that make a difference in the plan? Like you
Say
would
that
still have the roof, so if you didn't
A
have
three-story building.
the 3-story, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't shown in this drawing, but there would still be most likely a roof terrace, there would
and
be
the-
green roof as
okay,
well, yes,
okay.
in both options.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else you want to add? Does anybody have any questions? For someone from the, all right, I know we have somebody who probably wants to speak from the, again. You have a question?
Yeah, actually, I guess it's kind of a question, but also a comment. I know last we talked about this project, my concern was that there wasn't much there in terms of a public benefit. Has that been reconsidered to add more of a public benefit?
To the
Unfortunately-
four-story.
Yeah, understood. Unfortunately, we're pretty limited in terms of providing the clearances to get in access to the below grade parking, the parking that's provided on the ground floor. So we're trying to do the best with the square footage that we have available. So I don't think there's really much else that we would be able to feasibly add with this option in terms of additional public benefit features. I think the only other thing that I would mention is, at the basement level, the parking, we have, we provided enough parking as required by zoning, but we also have additional tandem parking spaces that are proposed in the cellar. So while they don't count towards our required parking as per planning, we do also have additional parking available to the tenants that we're able to offer. So those essentially tandem being you park back to back. So for like 2-bedroom units, things like that, we'll be able to give additional parking spaces. So that should provide additional parking above and beyond what's actually technically required. Well, we cannot count that in our calculations. I just want to mention that is also part of the project.
And what about units in terms of affordability, workforce housing?
We would certainly be willing to add an additional affordable unit.
Just one additional, or would we look at possibly more? I say that
At
because-
this time, I can offer one. I would have to discuss with the client further if there were to be a request for more than one unit. Above and beyond what's already been provided.
On the 3-story, you talked about the parking, that you would be underground parking, tandem parking. You can't offer that with the 3-story? I mean, you're gonna have,
It would be, I mean, so the basement level is the full footprint of the property, so the parking will be very similar. Again, it's not as developed as the 4-story option,
Right.
just, you know. in
but
terms
it's
of
not like
design,
you, it's
But it would
not,
be similar.
it's not like a 4-story building would have more underground parking.
I mean, listen, the building is, what's gonna be different is the fact that the square footage on the 4th story gets brought up to the front, which is why the building seems bigger. It seems bigger because it's a story lower, and so it flattens it out. So you take a 4-story building, instead that you flatten it out, it's gonna go a little wider on the ground. Other than that, I think it's roughly the same building. I know you've said some of the interiors because of the way that you lose some of the angles that you might lose on a 4-story building, and with the setback. So Dom had indicated that the interior units might not be as dynamic as they might be in sort of the more modern
Right, since-
architecture.
Since the footprint of the building does get so large, you end up, you know, if you have units in the front, units in the back, in order to provide light and air, the units become quite deep. So as you get, you know, further away, it's not quite as bright. So we prefer the 4-story option because it gives better light and air to those
Okay.
tenants, but yeah.
I think what the deputy mayor was suggesting was that is there an additional public amenity, i.e. additional, would the applicant consider additional affordable units? And or the other public amenity I could see would be the public parking, that the parking on the setback parking that's on the 4-story, the four spaces that are there in the drawing, which I understood were gonna be used for the tenants of the building. If that was, you know, open perhaps for, you know, 1 hour parking, but open to the public, the way it is open by the Fresh Market, might be something else that we consider, because then it would be open to the public. So it'd be a public amenity as opposed to a private amenity for the shops that are in the building. But by making it a 1 hour limit or something like that, there'd be a lot of turnover. So the businesses there would benefit because the street parking is 3 hour limits. So it's more likely to get people squatting for longer periods of time. I know Pascal and I had talked about that, so I just want to make sure I mentioned that as being something that as a public amenity could be considered.
Can
Yeah,
I just speak to
sure.
the point? So that would definitely be something that our client would very much like to be able to provide. I think the way that the code is written in terms of, you know, we can't count those tandem parking spaces.
No, not the downstairs. I'm not talking the basement spaces. I'm talking about the
No,
four that are in front of the building.
But I just, technically, those 4 parking spaces in the front have to count towards our minimum number of parking spaces as per zoning, since we cannot count the tandem spaces.
Okay,
So technically speaking,
technically
we
they're for
cannot,
tenants.
so I think it would be a matter of having additional discussions with the planning board.
To make
I
sure
don't
they
know
were
if
okay
we
with
would
that.
Need a variance in order to be able to call those tandem spaces part of our count, so that we could then officially designate the ground
Mhm.
floor. But that's certainly something that
That's
we would
interesting.
prefer.
Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. It's very thoughtful. Anything else? All right, so I know we have somebody that wants to come speak for the neighbor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members, trustees. My name is Stephen Honan, and I represent Mr. Taylor, who is the next door neighbor, who lives just basically south of the site. And I realize that this matter is before the planning board. It was referred to your board for the limited purposes of looking at the requested fourth floor of the structure. And I did take a look at the submission of Mr. Pillar's office today with respect to the increased height. Quite frankly, I had never seen this rendering before. I think it's important to keep in mind, though, that this is it's a bird's eye view of South Broadway, and something that if you're a pedestrian on the street at the human level, first of all, you don't appreciate that buildings far from this area have an extra looks like rooms on top that technically make it a fourth floor. The general area, though, is really a transitional area from where the village boundary is to just outside the village where South Nyack used to be, the old South Nyack Village. So, and that area there is all, single-family homes, lower density and much lower height. To allow a building on the edge of the village to go 4 stories and then have the mechanicals on top for the elevator roofs and other thing, and also the green roofs, you're basically not in a transitionary area anymore. You're now in a, you're building a monument there. I think it's also very telling that all of the consultants that have looked at this have basically come to the same conclusion, in that it's an overdevelopment of the area, that this is out of scale for the other buildings in the area. I mean, there's a 1-story right across the street from it. My client wants to see development, but he wants to see responsible development. And I can't blame the applicant and the engineer that is coming before this board looking to maximize their square footage and maximize their project. At the end of the day, it's more costly, it's more beneficial and cost-wise to maximize that. You as the board in the village, though, must balance that with the benefit to the community. And the sheer scale of this development, I think, is it tips the balance way out of favor for the village. It's a great benefit for the developer, very poor benefit for the village. And the code, the village code, and I don't want to get into all the violations of the comprehensive plan that this village spent a lot of money and a lot of time going over, and basically made the pavilion development comply with, as far as maintaining the frontage of the buildings, certain sidewalk width, a reduced height of only to 3 stories. It's telling that the photograph here does not show the pavilion, which is right next door, immediately to the west. And quite frankly, a 4-story with a mechanicals on top will completely block the view of all the pavilion people looking east towards the river. However, the code, and I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you're familiar with it, but the code provision of 360-2.4B, subparagraph A, has the special public benefit features that the board should consider, and you have been going over them. But when I went through them before coming here this evening, I didn't see any real compelling specific benefit to the village by this development. Item number 1, affordable workforce housing units. I believe there was 2 proposed for this, but 2 was required. So it's going to have to be well in excess of 2 to make it any kind of a benefit to the village. Item number 2, housing units for senior citizens with a priority towards village senior citizen residents.
I think we're familiar. So I mean, I know this, I think we've already made the point that Pascal made about the fact that it's not a large development in the sense that it has the capacity to do some of the things that we would normally think of as being in the public benefit, but it's done some of the things and not others, but not all the things are meant to be ticked off. You're not supposed to do workforce or housing and senior housing and a public park, and you can pick from among those. It's not supposed to be a check off every box.
No, and I understand that, but I was looking for just one that would stand out as being one that's compelling, and I didn't see that. With respect to any kind of public park, I believe it was a suggestion of a fountain being put in. I don't know if that's still the only public benefit that they're suggesting, and I don't know if that really benefits the village in any respect.
I did one of the things that we did ask the applicant to come back with this week, and they did bring the plans for the 3-story building. I was wondering if your client had any thoughts about the 3-story building, because my impression is that the 3-story building is if anything, would be more, if the 4-story building is blocking part of his property, I think the 3-story building does the same thing.
Well, I think that the location of it is also important, and the renderings I saw is that the building was brought up, but it's still not, it's not along the same building line as the buildings to the north. And they varied that, and I don't know why, and I believe the explanation was, well, our property line goes out further.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, I've looked at the deeds, but I believe all those buildings have the same frontage as far as their property line. However, many of those buildings, when they were constructed, you have to have a certain width of sidewalk in order to make the amenities for a village and make it pedestrian friendly. If you build it right to the side and you give people a 4 foot or 3 foot sidewalk in this
Mhm.
village, it doesn't really do anything. You've got to basically maintain the frontage of these buildings. And what you did in the old days, what we do in New York City, when they go out much further, they wouldn't allow you to develop that, but you could build vault space. So you'd be able to use vault space and have basements underneath the public sidewalk. But the whole idea is that you're developing in a city or in a village with a development, a pre-existing development. You want the new redevelopment to fit in with what's already there. And the plans here, unfortunately, even the new renderings at 3 stories, I think the height is good and they're working in the right direction, but they're still not maintaining the building frontage so that a person walking down the street and groups of people that they do on the weekends in the village will have to be restricted. It doesn't work. You basically have to keep the frontage, and the comprehensive plan basically requires that be done. I understand
any-
that zoning doesn't require it, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think you got the
I
idea.
think your point's been made.
Okay.
I think appropriately and effectively, you're a good attorney. Anybody have any comments or questions for, council?
No.
Yeah, I do. So I've seen reports or, commentary from, the fire department and the EMS. And, from what I understand, they have objections to the 4-story building. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Trustee, they do, and they say that the positioning of the building and the height of it doesn't work for firefighting. That's a real safety concern, and that was brought up before the planning board, and it was kind of waved away. With the
Well, the planning
exception
board
of one planning
recommended-
board member who was very impressed with that and basically voted against sending this to your board.
But the planning board did vote 4-1 in favor.
4-1 they
of the
did.
fourth story. Okay, I mean, they had a lot more of the information than about some of these other aspects than we do about it. But Joe's point's well taken, but she wants a response, so let me give you an opportunity to
Yeah,
respond on that
so
point.
there were further discussions between our office and Manny, with the building department regarding specifically the concerns, with fire department access. He is in agreement with our assessment. We're waiting for the official memo from him, but we were told that was forthcoming. So as far as we're concerned, there are no further concerns related to the fire.
I think the thing is, thank you for coming.
I think everyone here on the board has a letter from the chief of the fire department that was sent to you 4 or 5 days ago that there was concern. The building inspector can say what he wants to say, but the fire department.
Sir,
Okay.
if you'd like to speak, you speak to us.
Mr. Mayor,
Keith, you wanna speak, you
Mr.
come up and
Mayor,
speak to us.
Mr. Mayor, the fire inspector and the chief building inspector, they're the ones who determine compliance with the New York State codes, including the firematic services that is being referenced by.
That's fine, and I don't have if he wants to raise the point, he can raise the point about the letter.
It's not.
They're
the fire
in
department,
disagreement.
It's the building inspector and the fire inspector who make that determination whether or not there is compliance with the New York State codes, including the fire code. So it's up to Manny Carmona and or David Smith, who will make that determination.
That's fine, I was only simply making the point that Mr. Taylor should speak to us.
The engineer that.
Mr. Taylor, if you'd like to come speak, you have counsel here speaking on your behalf, if you'd like to speak as well, come up to the podium. Would you like to speak or not? Does that mean no? Is that what that means? I mean, your counsel, he's declined to speak. I think we've heard your points very well. Thank you. I
you very
appreciate your
much.
time very much.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody else want to speak about this on public comment? Please come up, John. Time?
John
Andy?
Gamata, 8 First
Who's got
Avenue,
it?
in
Yeah.
the village. I think that the 3-story option makes the building actually conform with the character of the village of Nyack. Because if you look at all the commercial structures in Nyack, from Cedar Hill up to First Avenue and up to Broadway, there's not a one that has a parking lot in front of it. And that's by design over the course of the village's history. That is what contributes to the sense of character that we have in this village, that the setbacks, the lack of a setback for the commercial district creates these exterior rooms that give it the sense of character and charm. And looking at the three-story option, even if you look at, you know, from the street or from, it definitely, the line of stores continues on from, as you're walking down the street, it creates a sense of harmony. And I think that should be a large consideration in the fact that the three-story option actually does maintain the character of the village in a better way. Now, I would like to see the commercial structure is actually at sidewalk level too, with parking in the back where you have an alley to go back in the parking behind. That's not what I see in the three-story option right now, but I think even the one that's depicted today is a better quality design for the village of Nyack, and that's what I'd like to say. I mean, the massive, and I'm also
John.
sorry. I'm thrilled that this property is being redeveloped for housing, and I support the project in general, but I'd love to see it, you know, more in character with the village of the, I guess it is. And
Thank you, John.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else want to make public comments on this issue? All right, thank you all. Comments from the village board on their thoughts of this, because the applicant has come for any guidance. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share as we leave it to us? And what guidance would you like to give DR Pillow?
I mean, look, as it stands, I think we need a way more robust public benefit. And we just had a discussion a couple months ago about removing park benches in Hezekiah Easter because we had a homeless situation. The summer's coming, there's gonna be 3 park benches there. We're gonna have the same problem in a different part of the village, and it's gonna be on us to deal with. So I would like to see a little bit more done in terms of the public benefit. Also, look, we have a housing shortage. We don't really need more luxury housing. We need more workforce housing because we have a lot of people who are being pressed out of this area. So 2 units is sparse. I like to see more like 6, maybe more than that, for even to think about justifying a 4th floor. There's no reason that we can't do that. So that's some of the things I'd like to see. And then lastly, you know, look, everyone wants to be good neighbors, so it would be nice to see some of the concerns that Mr. Taylor has be addressed. I would like to, you know, some of the concerns of the fire department be addressed, some of the concerns that our own village engineer has to be addressed. So there's a lot more, I think, talking and negotiation that needs to be had. So I'm not really, I don't want to, I get that there's a lot of money at stake here, and I don't want to be unkind to that, but I'm just not really, I can't really consider this right now until some of those things have been worked out, until we see a better, more robust public benefit. Like I said, people are being priced out of here, and that's a really important thing. I'm one of those people that's being priced out of here, so it's hard for me to justify seeing apartments that are going to come and they're going to be like $3,000 to $4,000 a month when I can't afford that, teachers can't afford that, nurses can't afford that, our LPNs, firefighters specifically, we're losing our volunteer fire department because they can't afford to live here. So I want to see more robust, affordable housing portion of this before I can even think about considering a 4th floor.
Thank you. Anything you want to add or?
Very good points brought up. It would be nice, what you said, we do have a housing issue here. It would be nice if there is like more benefit for the village. I think that I'm also feeling like a 3-story option is more in character, as Mr. Gramata said, the character of the village, because I think that's being lost with other things that have gone up over the years. And there is still questions out there about the fire department being on board, the Manny being on board. Like, I just want to make sure that everybody's on board with the safety and everything before this goes up. So there still are kind of some unanswered questions, but also at the same time, taking into consideration that, you know, the project looks like a really good one. It will look a lot better than the gas station and the convenience store. But I am not ready for a final decision until other things have been finalized.
Yeah, well, like I said the last meeting, I'm and I appreciate what's your name? Sarah, I appreciate, Sarah, that you brought the new renditions and we could actually see what the three-story would look like. You did have that in a previous package to the planning board. But this is more filled out. As John Yamada and other people have put on, as I said last time, I'm concerned about the character of the village. I don't want to see large, tall developments in the village. So I am, together with what Pascal and what Don have said, that being all things being equal, I'm in favor of the three-story
Well, to clarify, you're not in favor of the four-story.
I'm not, no, I definitely am, yes, if you want to put it that way, yes.
Just to be clear, just because we're not approving the three-story building as has been presented
Right,
to
but
us.
exactly, in the three-story building, before I talk about that or approve it, then obviously there's a lot of things that have to be worked out with the fire department, the EMS, but everything being said, I do not like the four-story variety.
Okay, you came for a sense of the board. My feeling is that I prefer the fourth-story building just simply because I think the setback is a more aesthetically pleasing, even though it's not consistent with some of those other buildings on that street. It's consistent with other buildings on Broadway, but not necessarily with the ones between Cedar Hill and Hudson. So I would have been open to it, and I think I would probably agree. So I wouldn't agree with Joe on that, but I would probably be in agreement with my colleagues to my right about the fact that I would still like to see a little bit more robust, as Pascal put it, a public option, a public benefit here. But I would be more in favor of the four-story just on aesthetics. But I think in terms of what you came here for was some sort of clear guidance as to whether it would be whether you should continue on the four-story option. And it seems to me that the board does not seem inclined likely to approve that. That could change. This is just an informal advisory opinion at this point, but in terms of taking it back to the office, that would be I think the takeaway. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in and for presenting this with us. And thank you to the council. Thank you for Mr. Taylor for coming in and sharing your thoughts, and Mr. Gramata for sharing yours as well. All right. Thank you for that. We have before we get into the public hearing, which we can certainly start by now. I did want to skip ahead as a matter of courtesy to former trustee, to skip ahead to 7-Eleven, because I think he's probably here for that. Why don't you come up? Action item 7-Eleven, resolution 25-51, approving a license agreement with the Nyack Boat Charter to conduct business from the Nyack Marina. Hello, Doug.
Do we need to, wait, do we need to have the motion first to?
Oh, yes, well, if he wants to speak to it on public comment, he could, but when we get the motion on the table, can I get on the table?
Motion.
Second.
All right, if you want to address this and tell us what's going on with it.
Hi, Doug Foster, pleasure, thank you very much. Yeah, so I didn't have anything planned to say, this would be the 10th year, actually, which is pretty amazing. I was thinking about it. It's, in the last couple of years, we've scaled back, obviously we had the big sailboat, which was wonderful. It's a very expensive, endeavor. And, ironically with COVID, we had like incredible demand. The demand had really dropped off after that. This year, I have no idea what's going to happen this year, just to be honest with you. I have a feeling it's not. So our plan now is to have the power boat that we've had, which takes up to 6 people. We've had a lot of people inquiring about it. To be honest, we have a lot of people inquiring for larger groups. That's just the way it is. We also are partnering with a group out of the Washington Irving Boat Club. I mean, they have their own business, but they're under our insurance. And so we'd like to have them. It would only be a few times, if at all, to come over and maybe do charters with us. Sometimes we have groups, if they're more than 6, you go out with 2 boats. So we're just talking about that. But overall, we would just be running a 1 boat out of the out of the marina and hoping that, you know. Decent amount of rain.
Yeah.
So,
Where's the Washington Irvington?
it's right across the river, it's,
Oh,
in Terrytown, it's pretty much on the southernmost edge there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is basically the same contract we've signed before.
Mhm.
This is the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any comments or anything from you, Andy?
I recommend that you approve the contract. I think it's really important for the village to have the access to the river that this business is providing.
All right, any comments or questions? All right, all in favor of, the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. I want to make sure, if you'd like to stay for the budget meeting, you're certainly welcome to do so. It may,
Reminisce.
for a little old time's sake, you're welcome to, but I didn't want to make you sit around through all that to wait for your moment in the sun. All right, let's, can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
See if I can get Jen on the phone.
There's a public hearing on the 25-26 village budget.
Yeah, it's all.
Didn't forget about it.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated.
All right, well,
We don't have her.
we may have to wing it.
All right, do you wanna skip ahead? Let's skip ahead to we can keep the public hearing going while we finish other business. Let's get to other business.
I was gonna say, is it part of a packet? I can't find it.
Um, we have 3 members, so I have to vote if we approve any of these following. Joe has left us for a few moments, but I will, if there's anything that, you know what, I don't wanna do anything we vote on if he's not here, because he theoretically might have something he wants to make a point about voting. Let's, before we get to those items, let me give a recount of new business. That we had a parking authority meeting earlier today at 7 o'clock. In that parking authority meeting, we discussed several items. That was the restaurant parklet bump out policy, which we approved for another year to do the parklets, little concrete bump outs with a couple of caveats. One of them is that the monthly fee for the bump out has been raised from $100 to $125. That we will be particularly careful about the 4-foot pedestrian path that has to be provided for pedestrian access. And for any time that there are 2 bump outs that are across the street from each other, they're going to be narrowed a bit so that they're not blocking each other. We also, at the parking authority meeting, we discussed and approved the idea of allowing in the large Artipe lot that we're going to allow for overnight parking on Friday and Saturday night. So on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, we will eliminate the 3 to 6 a.m. no parking rule to allow people to park there overnight, both for convenience for residents as well as for people who might be at the bars and might not want to have to drive home, and they can leave their car there and not worry about getting a ticket. We also approved the concept of fast chargers, level 3 chargers for the Catherine Street parking lot, with the idea that we would keep our eyes open for other opportunities to put level 3 chargers in other areas. And that's the recap of the new business of the parking authority meeting that we had at 7 o'clock. Now, assuming we still do not have Jen? Okay, so let's go to resolution, action item 7.1, resolution 25-42, accepting the audited voucher survey. Can I get on the table?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the minutes. Can we get the, can I get the minutes, motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the minutes? Any corrections?
You're not allowed to go on vacation because you keep messing up.
I listen. I'm not, it's not that bad. Come on. Doug Foster's here. I don't want to embarrass myself.
One thing that I wanted to mention is that when we have public comment that we talked about, that Dennis had read last time a statement about people giving their names, their addresses. And if they don't do that, then their comments have less of a.
Now, I
impact.
can recirculate that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but what it basically says is people, please give your name and address. If you wish to remain, not give your address or remain anonymous, they have that right. But, the board will give the appropriate weight to whether or not you're a resident or an employed in the village, something like that.
Okay, can we have that as a pro forma that every meeting, we just read that at the beginning of the meeting before public comment is made, so people understand?
Why we're getting it. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to know when somebody is speaking, if they live in the village or they live outside of the village. Nothing wrong with that, but good to know.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that before public comment from now on. Any other comments or questions about the minutes?
No.
Motion, all in favor of approving the minutes from 3/27?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, resolution action item 7.2, resolution 25-43. Amending the bond resolution adopted August 25th, 22 and amended on May 9th, 2024 relating to the construction of improvements to the village water system. Can I get on the table?
So moved. Second.
Andy, comments?
So this is a very long resolution that has a very short punchline, which is that with the evolution of this project and the passage of time, cost estimates have gone up and the past bond resolutions are not sufficient to cover the cost of the project. So that's why this amendment proposes increasing the bond to close to $8 million. Should bear in mind that the principal and interest on this debt is paid for by the parking authorities. By the water fund, not parking, the water fund. And also a good chunk of this project is paid for with a grant. But we have to bond for the full amount so that the funders see that the village has the entire project improved.
Okay.
So it went up from 6.2 to 8 million, do I have that right?
Right,
Yeah.
roughly, yeah.
How much of a grant do we get?
The grant is about $3 million.
$3 million, so basically we're covering a little bit more than half the cost.
Right.
Okay.
Where's the grant from?
It is BIL, which is the federal infrastructure. I'm not sure the acronym, that's kind of spelled out, but.
Okay.
How does the taking, increasing the bond amount, does that affect our credit rating?
The amount, when it actually is sold, it will be sold at an interest rate to competitive bids. And that interest rate will reflect our credit rating.
Okay, so.
But just having the debt for sale doesn't make us look bad or good in the view of creditors.
Okay.
We're nowhere near the sort of a level of debt that would be a red flag. And we got a pretty good interest rate on our last competitively bid debt sale.
Okay, so the water customers, it will be included in their fees. So basically, the village doesn't have to expend any money for this, right? It's gonna be.
Right, yeah, the principal and interest are entirely on the water fund.
Right.
To support, along with the operations of the water treatment plant, staff and everything else.
Okay. But we're just backing the bond.
Yeah, the Board of Water Commissioners cannot legally issue debt, only the village board can. And the village and our general fund is backstopping the water department. I mean, so this board needs to know that you do control that aspect of it. The water department can't just go ahead and issue debt unilaterally. It needs to get this board's approval.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Always fun borrowing money. There we go. Makes the water cleaner. All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7.3, resolution 25-44.
I know.
A resolution approving a home rule request for Senate bill and an assembly bill regarding a Village of Nyack hotel occupancy tax. Can I get on the table?
Motion, oh, second.
Second,
This is, we have a hotel occupancy tax right now. It's contributed about 200,000, I think it's about 400,000 actually.
No, closer to 2.
Closer to 200,000. 100,000 goes toward, Nyack tourism grants or for other tourism related activities. And 100 goes to the general fund. But I believe it expires at the end of 2025, so we'd like very much to extend it. It caps a hole in our budget very nicely. Any comments or questions?
Is it a 5-year extender?
I don't know, exactly how they're gonna propose it.
I'll look at the bill.
Yeah, I think we wanted to get it for as long as we can,
Hmm.
but I guess it's whatever the legislature is comfortable with.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 years, but I can check.
Any other comments or questions?
We're not doing 2 of these.
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7.4, resolution 25-45. A resolution to approve the application for the CDBG grant for sidewalk on Kilby Street. Can I get on the table?
So moved. Second,
This is what we talked about last week. We opted for this particular project, so I assume everybody's good with it. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.5, resolution 25-46. To set a public hearing to amend the zoning code to modify the definition of sign, to add a definition of mural, and to prescribe review and approval, denial of murals by the village board of trustees. Can I get this on the table?
So moved. Second.
This is just to set the public hearing.
Mhm.
I have to define when we're doing the public hearing, Dennis? Is it in
It's
the
Do
resolution?
that, yes.
It's here.
It would be
May 22nd.
8 o'clock
22nd.
Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, and here at the Village Hall.
That sounds very well spoken.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you very much.
3-year extension.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The public hearing is now set. Did you find out whether it was a 3-year or 5 years?
Yes, 3 years. It says, I'm looking at it now, it's to 2028.
All right, so it's a 3-year extension. Okay, that's for the
Hotel
hotel.
taxes.
Where are we?
7.6.
7.6, resolution 25-47. To approve an application for a flower market vendor event series in Hezekiah Eastern Veterans Square.
So moved.
Second.
And we talked about this last week. The first one is this weekend, and so we should probably approve it. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.7, resolution 25-48, to approve an application for a block party street closure on Summit Street on Saturday, April 19th, 2025. Can I get it on the table?
Motion,
Second.
Any comments or questions?
are we invited?
We are definitely invited.
Oh, are we?
That's a condition of all parties that are approved,
I mean,
including
I'm going
weddings.
anyway, it's a.
Yeah.
Weddings, receptions.
I'm gonna be there anyway.
Anything else?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.8, resolution 25-48, to approve an application for a wedding gathering in Memorial Park gazebo on April 19th from 6 to 7 PM. Can I get this on the table?
So moved.
Second.
One thing I just want to clarify, when we approve this, anyone that wants to do a planned event in the park has to get it approved by us. That does not guarantee that we're not providing security or anything for this event. We're not if they get married and somebody's gonna sort of hang out and play loud music, that's their responsibility.
Yeah, they understand that we're not
That's an
down there
hour.
sort of protecting their space.
Yeah.
But if they get to the gazebo first and they kind of set up there, I think they can expect to be undisturbed by
Yeah.
others.
It's sort of a
And
make.
it's an hour.
Go ahead, yeah.
It's-
Well, they may not need an hour. They just want to reserve an hour.
Oh, they want
Will the Easter egg stuff be done by that point?
Yes,
Okay.
What a busy day we have.
Yeah.
April 19th is a busy day.
Yes.
Any, that's because the 20th is off limits. Can't do anything on the 20th because it's Easter. Any comments or questions?
Are we invited to
No.
this too?
Are we invited to this? Yes, we're invited to this. Well, so is anybody in the park at that time.
Yeah.
All the kids finishing up with their eggs, loaded up on sugar. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.9, resolution 25-49, to approve a street closure for the back to school barbecue on Saturday, August 16th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.10, resolution 25-50, to approve there's an extra A there, in the title, to approve the 2025 Stormwater 2 Education Program Agreement with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. Can I get it on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments or questions for Andy?
Is this the program you
Yeah.
spoke about earlier, this year with the youth climate group? Is that it, or is this something different?
This is
Different, I think.
a, Cornell Cooperative Extension offers a shared service to all municipalities to help us comply with the stormwater regulations, which require educational outreach
Oh, okay.
and training events, and also a mapping capacity, which they provide through a partner engineering company. So it's not a lot of money to allow them to take a big load.
And they're
off our back.
amazing.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries. We did 711, 712, resolution 25-52, issuing an RFP for the Camp Nyack Summer Camp Program. Can I get it on the table?
Motion.
Second.
This is the RFP, request for proposal that we have. In the past, it's generally been, the applications come from the Nyack Center, but it is open to the public for anyone to make a bid on it. And this is for the camp that we've allocated funds for, I believe, 7 weeks of camp?
I think it's
We added
the same as
Same as last year, whatever we did last year. I
can't
can't remember if it was 6 or 7 that we, but we added one last year.
$150,000.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I thought that we were, because it says something at the bottom of this. I know that we approved the money last year, but I thought that we were talking about like how many students was that able to fund? I mean, there was some.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We did, what we found out was that there were, what was the number? It was about.
The camp was essentially full the whole way
Camp was
through.
full the whole way through, and almost, except for 1 or 2 campers, it was all Nyack residents.
Oh, okay.
They get 1 or 2, the cost of the camp is $1,800 for the summer. So the Nyack Center doesn't get a lot of people who can pay for it.
Right.
But they get there are a couple people that are outside Nyack that do pay for it and then do go.
Okay.
And
And the
then
additional
Okay.
time the village board added,
Right.
was full. It wasn't just a couple of kids showing up for that.
Okay, so that was.
Yeah,
for the
they had-
last
it was-
the extra money that they were asking for, because we had discussed that during our budget meeting. Okay.
It was actually not, they didn't even ask for the extra money. It was something that I think Pascal brought up and
Yeah.
volunteered as something that we should try to do. And it was utilized as much as any of the other weeks of camp, so that was good. I was glad to hear that. I would not have wanted to think that, because I thought maybe their kids would start going back to school, start preparing for, other things.
School in August.
Well, they do. There's summer sports and stuff. Sometimes they start in
Yeah,
August.
they are.
Not those kids. They want to suffer as much summer as possible.
All right, good for them, as do we all, which is why I was away, I guess it's even better when you get
Okay.
summer in
This is
April.
pre-summer.
Summer in April.
I'm not
It's all
gonna
right.
say anything.
All right, well,
I'm just being.
712, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 713, resolution 24-53. Approving
actual
publication, one minute.
No, right, go ahead, sorry.
Approving a publication of a competitive bid for replacement of the Nyack DPW roof at 63 Catherine Street. Can I get on the table?
So moved.
Second?
Wait, where's?
That's right.
Do you not have it on yours?
Yeah, that's right.
7.13? You might have an older
There was a
version.
revised agenda.
Oh,
The final one was posted online. It was sent out separately to everybody.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, so this is,
so you stopped when?
all right, can I get a second on the motion?
Second.
All right, so we can discuss it. Andy, why don't you tell us what it's about, especially for those people who do not have it in
So
their packet?
the DPW building suffers from various maladies, one of which is a very old, decrepit roof. Our village engineer has designed a new roof and is ready to issue the competitive contract for bidding on that roof. It'll run somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000. Once a new roof is installed, we can run ahead with our 100% grant funded solar array. Cause you don't put those on an old roof, you put them on a new roof. And that solar array is likely to create enough savings in electricity that the cost of the new roof will be paid for in less than 10 years. So it fits together.
Mhm.
We don't have a grant for the roof, but we have a method for improving our bottom line after having done the roof.
Okay.
Any comments, questions?
wait, Oh, the roof replacement will enable installation of the solar array.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries. 714, resolution 24-54, approving publication of a competitive bid for replacement of the Nyack DPW salt shed at 623 Catherine Street. Can I get on the table?
Motion.
Second.
So this is an additional piece of equipment that they need at the DPW.
This is a building, which right now is a bit sort of stuck on the side of the larger garage building, but it suffers from various weaknesses. It's old, falling down. It's not really very well protected against weather, so rain and wind can get in. And it's a problem for I hope the DEC isn't listening, but our compliance with the MS4 regulations, because it's the salt washes out, and can get it to the storm drains. So a new salt shed is grant funded, thanks to Assemblyman Kenneth Zabrowski.
That's my next question.
That's one of our items. We had hoped to get enough money for both the salt shed and the truck wash,
Yeah,
but the salt shed ended up costing more because some of the retaining wall behind the DPW needs to be rebuilt in order to position the salt shed and have it safely engineered. So right now we are in the market for going back, hopefully to get some help paying for a truck wash eventually.
okay. So we've got the money. Cool,
Yeah, the specs are done. We're ready to go to bed.
All right,
all right.
any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a 730, do we have a resolution 53 or not?
Nope. You can
No, still not?
hold that one.
Still hold this one? All right.
Can we talk about that in,
We can talk about an executive session.
Sure.
Okay,
Also, were we not ready for the request for High Avenue,
a traffic
the
study?
traffic study?
I didn't get a chance to do any writing on that.
Okay.
But I'm happy to do that for next week.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I would get to it, but then I just.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, any departmental reports, village administrator?
Well, one thing is we've got a number of sort of communications which we'll get to, which aren't on the agenda yet for special events in the park, which I want to talk to the board about. I also want to do a short executive session on a real estate matter. Once you're finished with your meeting.
okay.
But I don't have any particular report right now. I will say that the upper lawn is protected right now with fencing, so that we can hopefully get we've been seeding it and we're ready to irrigate it. We've got the sprinklers out there if it gets really hot. Putting hay out, DPW's been doing a nice job with that. I'm trying to get a better lawn growing on the upper lawn, because it's been pretty bare. And we're actually talking about an application right now from a volleyball group that plays there. They haven't been submitting permits before, so I told them they gotta have a permit for organized activity. And they won't be able to start until the lawn is reestablished. And even in that case, I think the board needs to think a little bit about what the best location for a regular volleyball game might be. It's gonna beat on the lawn, kind of no matter where we put it.
Posies.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right, the new business, I discussed the bump out policy as well as the summer, what else?
Also, sorry, I'm just gonna keep putting in my ask.
I think you should meet with them.
I would love to meet with him,
Yeah,
but
let's.
it's not really just me. Given all the concerns we constantly hear about what's going on Main Street, I think it is better for him to also just speak to everybody in general.
I
Like, it's
understand
not
that,
just
we've
me
made, and we've made the request multiple times.
Detective Parcel.
Who's this?
Yeah.
We've made the request.
For
multiple
OPD?
times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We did give a report
Yeah,
at the meeting.
for them to come to a meeting.
They should. They
And
should.
I know, like, we just hear about it so often. And I was around, so I was walking down Main Street today and I do see what everyone is talking about.
Yeah.
So like, it would be nice to hear from them. I do see them on Franklin late at night, so that's really great that they're, and not like Franklin towards the end, Franklin and Main Street, I do see them parked on that corner, in the evening, so I think that's great, but, I do know it's been a concern for a lot of people, so I would like, it's not really more for me, I know it's just more for the community. But I'd be happy to meet with him regardless.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would, because I know you have a number of questions that you wanna
Yeah,
raise,
yeah.
which might be better to raise in a
Yeah.
meeting.
No, it's fine.
All right, old business, we don't have anything listed, anything we wanna go back over? All right, new business, I talked about the bump out policy in context of summarizing Our parking meeting, I'll talk about the Main Street Promenade in the context of recounting the business council meeting that we had today. We had about 15 people that attended, most of them business owners. We discussed the concept of the Main Street Promenade that was promulgated last week in the newsletter and some online discourse. And the email that went out to invite everybody to the business council meeting. The gist of it was that people are very leery of doing anything on Friday or Saturday nights because it's such a big night for everybody that anything that disturbs the status quo has a risk for particularly those businesses that would not be on the promenade road, the promenade route, which is the route that goes from on Main Street between Broadway and either Cedar or Park. A number of people have raised the issue of could we take it further up to Franklin or further up to Bridge Street? And the concern is both the cost of doing additional closures as well as the farther you go up, the more likely you are to get dead spots that kind of undermine the purpose of having the density that you get. The consensus that came out of it was that it was better off to do it on Wednesday, maybe Thursday night, but Wednesday was the consensus rather than Friday or Saturday night. What that would do though, not doing it on a weekend means that we will probably still have the bump outs during the week, and the closure would then have to work around the bump outs because people would be able to put chairs all over around the concrete barriers. We're still nowhere near having like a formal proposal to close the streets. But we're gonna go solicit more. We didn't have a lot of people there from the direct route. We had a lot of people there that were outside the route, but we didn't have a lot of people from, from the restaurants. Like we didn't have anybody there from Prohibition River. We didn't have anybody there from Breakfast and Burger Club or Corner View Crane or the other places that are on Main Street that would be in the affected route. And I do want to hear from them because their opinions matter because they're the ones who would be directly impacted one way or the other. Remember, it would be at night, not during the day, so it doesn't impact negatively the retail businesses that are mostly closed after 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I know that Ms. Marian Olive wants to talk about that, and so we're going to talk about it because she wasn't able to attend the meeting, but she did have some questions because she's not on the route, and she is would be an affected business that would be when we did do the closure. So we'll talk about that offline. She and I. We'll talk about that tomorrow morning. You have my number. It's in your phone. You just texted both of us.
Do we know what the anticipated cost would be for?
For a street closure of that kind, we have to find out because right now we don't know if we're gonna have the bollards to be able to do it independently.
So, I mean, I do encourage this board to, in the budget approval process, allocate money to buy the homeland barriers, the ones on wheels, which are really, it's very important, I think, to have those to add to our supplies for any kind of street closure. This closure in particular would benefit from those because they can be moved. You wouldn't have to park a truck across the street.
Right.
And especially if we have sort of an odd shape, we just can't protect things well enough with vehicles that have it make sense. So the part is contingent on that, I think, depending on what kind of shape you want.
Yeah.
How much do they cost? What's the,
They're pretty expensive. They cost about $7,000 each. And of course, they last forever. But 2 trailers full costs about $160,000.
We're not gonna be able to put this in the budget. This is not gonna be in the budget. This is gonna be out of the fact that we have a surplus out of last year. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
So it's not gonna be in the 2025, 26
Right. No,
budget.
it's not an expense item in this budget.
when you say 2 truckloads, what do we need
They need to be carried. You have to
each
transport them.
There's
No, I
a
know.
special trailer that you carry them on, that could be lower, so you can push them in.
Right.
And
How many-
a trailer carries 8 of them.
8 of them on
If we
it.
get 16, we can do 2 loads and set up an event. So they recommend having 1 trailer for every 16 barriers that you have.
So like closing off Main Street on one end, how many do we need?
4 or 5.
4 on each side.
Yeah,
Okay,
I said 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I have to look at the width, curb to curb. It's about a 4 foot on center.
It's much more aesthetically pleasing as well as they start to pay for themselves over time because it's less expensive to do the closure.
There's some avoided cost for sure. The thing that's a little bit different about this proposal to close Main Street is like all of our street events have a sponsor. For the most part, who's paying the cost of DPW labor. And this idea involves a lot of beneficiaries. And right now it's not clear.
Well, I would just clarify that we actually do a ton of events that we don't have a sponsor that we close the streets for.
Right. It's a
Every
lot of
parade is paid
parades.
for.
Yeah.
We don't pay for the Halloween parade. They don't, we don't have a sponsor for any of the other parades that we do, Columbus or, not Columbus. the,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Memorial.
I was thinking.
So I'm just
for the
clarifying that
street
because we
fairs,
do have, it's just the street fairs. that we
Jazz
have, 'cause
Fest,
they're-
October Fest.
It's anything that is not revenue generating. We generally don't charge for street closures if it's a public benefit type
Right.
event.
So this one has a lot of revenue generation opportunity. but
It
it's
is something we
divided
should
among
take up with
various
them.
Businesses, and so how exactly we're gonna crack the code of allocating the cost of the closure. And how much cooperation among businesses will take place needs to be.
And I think we can cover it. I think it's something that we should fund out of the tourism money for a period of time. And if it's working and the businesses really want it, well, then we can get contribution from the businesses. And if it's not working, then we'll just stop doing it. That's the way to deal with it, is to get proof of concept, fund the proof of concept, and then if it's working, we can gradually transfer the cost to the, and that's what we did sort of with some of the, like the Sobro events. We funded them at first and they picked up the cost after that.
But it's worthwhile to purchase those portable, barriers.
Yes, I think if we can get those, it would be really useful in a lot of ways. It just,
No grants for that, huh?
That's what I'm aware
we
of.
can't because we can't use the forward money for it because they
No, not
are.
that, but I mean, just like a whole.
No,
nother
but I don't
grant
think there's,
that-
really- no, they, at least the state limits their security grants to like.
All right.
Churches, places of worship, things like that.
So that's that,
I have to say, for that night, just as a more ridiculous but also very nostalgic ad, with the trolley, could we get a trolley for that one of those nights? It would just be nice.
rent a trolley, take people back and forth or down the closure. We will certainly look at everything.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I ask.
We also talked, I can't remember if we talked about this, about doing overnight parking in the lot.
Yes.
Okay, we did talk about that, about eliminating the 3 to 6 restriction where you can't park to allow people to park overnight. Also, can we get a resolution, a verbal resolution of the board to dedicate Sunday to call it Coheed and Cambria Day? We're giving them the key to the city through the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce was very generous to provide a key to the city, which we're gonna get a good look at on Sunday. And then we'll present it to them, and we want to have a proclamation that it's their day, so. Resolution of the board, all in favor of that? Without getting a written
Sure,
resolution?
yes.
Okay, we got approval on that.
After party at Olives.
After party at Olives, all right.
Started at my.
And it will, that's amazing. 4:00 is the presentation, so 4:00, if you have a chance to go to the street fair at 4:00, that'd be the time to go. Weather's supposed to hold up, it's supposed to be okay. All right, anything else on this? All right, so communications, we have a letter for a birthday party for a 3-year-old Memorial Park Playground, Saturday, April 19th. Wait, that's the same damn Saturday.
Yeah, oh my
That's a little
gosh.
tough, yeah.
No, that's not a bad thing.
They're over.
It's just a splash pad for playground, not a splash pad, it's too early,
They're
but.
probably.
Oh, they're just on the
It's
playground.
a 23-year-old run around for a couple hours in the morning.
20 different 3-year-olds.
I think it's. Probably 2 parents for each 3-year-old. So
It's a duck-sized horse, not a horse-sized.
7 or 8 3-year-olds and 15 parents.
So I have sorry, so. We're not responsible or liable insurance wise or anything for these 20-year-olds that are
They
gonna.
provide us with
23-year-old.
I mean, the
insurance.
3-year-old.
We're not supervising them, but they're indemnifying us.
Yes.
We're not supervising. All
All right,
That wasn't in my
No,
job
liable,
description,
right.
although it sounds like fun.
All right, so at the same time, we've got a wedding that's going on at the same time, but that's gonna be down at the
The
gazebo.
wedding is.
The
at
wedding
night.
is at
Night.
6.
The wedding's
but
at
the-
6.
Wedding's at 6,
It's
okay.
the Easter egg,
Easter egg
that'll be the same
is,
time.
No, it's not, it's in the afternoon, it's like.
They start setting up around noon.
Yeah.
They start setting up around, they say it start 2 to 5 is
2
the
to
actual.
5, right, 2 to 5.
And we
Oh,
have keep rocking beautiful.
Keep Rockin' Beautiful's 9 to 12.
Oh my gosh, what a day.
I mean, it's a kid's birthday party. They could do it without telling us and we wouldn't even know about it. All right, so everybody all right with this?
Yeah,
We have to, we're not gonna have a chance to do a resolution before next meeting? No, we're
I
not.
was hoping to get a.
Just get verbal approval,
Okay.
yeah, verbal approval.
For 3-year-olds.
All right, everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right, but no more events for the 19th, okay? We're done. We're capped.
Yeah, no, I think it's, it's.
Um, 11/2, that one day, everybody's got a thing going on. All right, so this is now an event for Sunday, August 17th of Ignite Church. I think they do this every year.
Yes. I think I've seen it do it.
Do we have a noise problem with this one year?
Didn't we cut
We
it down
did,
the times?
and they are very, they understand very clearly that they need to keep it down.
Okay, well, that's.
And they said that to me a number of times. They've certainly heard execution on that, as though some question, we're not down there with our hand on the volume knob. But they definitely understand
Okay.
the concern, and they're talking about sort of keeping a lower
Okay.
volume.
All right, the way of time, so let's get a resolution for the next meeting about this.
Sure.
We can vote on it then, and maybe get some sort of, in the 2 weeks intervening period, maybe get some sort of assurance from them about the noise level. That's the volume level. I shouldn't say the noise level, the volume level, because the volume level on the music was very loud one year.
It was.
I remember that, and it was, we got a lot of calls. All right, this is now, we're now up to the section where we have a second opportunity for public comment.
I have a couple other late arriving community event
Okay,
applications. I just wanted the board to give me some guidance. on.
okay.
That's okay.
For the 19th?
For the 19th.
They're all the 19th?
is, DJ Morgana's proposal
Oh.
for
I think we,
dance and music event.
Who is?
that's literally on the 19th. That's like, we literally just said.
Running from noon until 3, so it overlaps a little bit with the birthday party.
Wait, where are they gonna
And overlaps a little bit with the egg hunt.
She wanted to do
Right.
something during the,
be?
during the,
My feeling is that we're kind of full.
all right, just to, because we're getting along, we're losing the thread.
Okay.
Also, this is not a joke. Literally on April 19th, there's another event proposed to us by Morgana,
Right, who's
Modern Druid, who's wonderful, who I adore.
Yes.
But she wants to do music, and I
Oh,
think she
that
wants to do it at the gazebo during the
the
cleanup.
Oh, so not during the Easter egg hunt.
Well, no, it overlaps with the Easter egg hunt.
She wanted she wanted to
And
do it,
she can't change her date?
but Pascal,
She
she
can
wanted,
change
she
her date.
wanted to do it from 9 to 12. Okay, in the morning, and then we kind of pushed back, and then she said, well, she's gonna do it from 12 to 3. I mean, I don't understand what the point is.
I think
And
it would
there's
be,
so many events,
yeah, I think it would be helpful if she changed her
I
date.
mean, it's just music, right? It's just playing music.
Is that DJ outside of her
I mean,
store like
it's
they did before?
DJ.
All right, let's,
dance.
it's-
Don't they do like a drum circle sometimes? Like she always has, and her events
I
are
know
great.
It's a
I
very
just
creative
think that.
thing.
all right, why don't we do this? Andy, why don't you, I mean, we can do
Yeah.
we can do an informal, explain that we're not at all ill disposed to her doing a music event, and we adore her, and we adore her business, and she's great, but like, there's a lot happening that day, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of moving parts, and we're not sure that if she attracts a crowd for the music, there's a lot going on in the park at one time, including the cleanup.
I would like to see her do it on a different day.
yeah. So.
I think she wanted to align it with the stuff that's going on that day, but there's just too much going on
There's a
already.
lot going on.
There's too much
I
going
agree.
on.
And it's just a lot going on.
Yeah, she should come back with another date.
And if she is like, well, actually, I wanna play music during the Easter egg hunt because we'll play music, it'll be fun, jaunty music. Like, if that's what she's playing, then she gotta explain that to us, because that's not what I.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then she should really work with Yogi on that.
Yes, that's right.
Because it
Should be
would be
coordinated,
during
yeah.
his event.
Yeah.
I know they have been communicating, but that's the only thing I would say is that.
I don't know what arrangement they.
I mean, if Yogi came to us and said, I'd like to have some music during my event, we'd say, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And if he was like, oh, and Morgana's
This is
gonna
gonna
do it,
do
then
it.
we'll be like,
That's
yeah,
up to
that's
him.
fine. That's more what I mean. Like if
Yeah.
they can sort of work it out and it's more incorporated in the
You
Easter
might
egg
not
hunt.
want any.
Right, and that's the thing. It's.
All right,
I think it's tough. I'd rather her move it to.
all right, so
Yeah.
I think that's our guidance on that. What's the next one?
This is the volleyball group.
Where are they gonna go?
They're looking for pretty much every Tuesday night, 5:30 to 8 on the upper lawn, starting on the 15th through early November, which is apparently it has been their routine. But I reached out to the sponsor and said, you gotta come for a permit, you can't just do this. And which is good, so now we're in a conversation. I'm concerned about the amount of wear and tear on that
Oh, that's
lawn
right.
from a you know, a pretty solid volleyball game. I guess I would recommend against approving this tonight or even in our next meeting where we have a chance to talk with him and look at. I would like him to use the basketball court. I don't know if he'll feel like that's
They won't
good
wanna do
enough.
that. Yeah, cause they like to dive and stuff.
Yeah, they
I
do.
would say this, they gotta move it around, like you said, A, and B, I think we could charge a deposit for the lawn maintenance, depending if there's any damage to the lawn from it. Because I mean, if someone's gonna use the lawn for regular sporting activity, I think if there's damage to the lawn, that's the public's property, they gotta reimburse us for that to repair it. I would say the same if remember, we've had certain like practice, sporting things we had a couple of years ago. We've had, guarantees of like no lawn damage for certain events that we've had. And I'm not against them playing, but like, for example, if people were having an organized soccer game regularly, soccer is another thing that takes a lot of wear.
And I could ask them for essentially a deposit.
A deposit, yeah.
Towards maintenance, like $2,000 or something like, cause we're gonna have to reseed and.
Well, I don't know if we move it around, we may not have to do anything. I mean, they're just playing volleyball. They're not shovel ball.
Right.
It's volleyball. So there's no damage at all. But I think it's too much because they're asking for 10 dates. If you charge them $25 a date and made it $500 or something, whatever that amount is, $500 or something like that as a deposit in case there's damage, but give it back to them if there's no damage that we can find. That's all. That's what I would do. That'd be my suggestion. Anybody have a problem with
And
that?
that's great. And what about, well, we have no say so of the other field where BOCES is, the old high school.
Yeah, well, I was also thinking, I mean, I was concerned about the music in the parks, but since not everything is back to sort of normal, that's less of a concern.
Well, actually, you're right. I mean, how does that, because this is on the upper lawn and this year, music will be down on the lower lawn on Tuesday
Yeah.
night, so.
Right, yeah, that's why I'm not as
But
concerned.
that means
Music-
I can't move them down to the lower lawn on Tuesday nights.
Wasn't the music in the
July.
park being done last year on the upper?
It was on the
lawn?
upper lawn.
Yeah,
Because
because